Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Sia Nejad Sports. Of course, I am Sia Nejad, and we're coming off a couple great shows from last week, and we've got another great show lined up for you right now. I've got none other than the Degenerate 75. You can call him James, you can call him Degenerate 75, Degen 75, whatever you want. Before I introduce you, let me just let everybody know where they can find you to the extent there's like the one person who doesn't know who you are. You can find him on YouTube. He's got a ton of shows on YouTube, which we'll talk about later, and on his website at degen75.com. That's actually down there on your screen. He provides a ton of DFS content, but for me, just as important, he provides like a lot of laugh. I just think you're a funny guy, and I think that's sort of part of the reason you've risen so fast, Degen James. I just think that part of your personality, it's not just the DFS acumen, it's partly your personality. So thanks for coming on to the show. But do you think there's anything to that?
First of all, my pleasure to be on here, always with you, Sia, the most polished man in all of DFS content. My opinion, I will still fight people that disagree. Yeah. So like the funny thing, that just goes back to my time as a teacher, right? I know what it's like to have an audience of people where you basically have 15 to 30 seconds to catch their attention, and then more importantly, keep their attention. And if you're just constantly being a still talking, boring head, people tune out. And there's a million people that they can go to for that. So I just make a point to just actively bring energy, try to keep it loose, not take myself too serious, make some dad jokes, give silly nicknames to players. And, that I think that a lot of people, do respond to that. I think it makes you more approachable, makes you more, just makes you feel like one of them, which honestly, I try to be. I try to just be like a normal dude that, just sees myself as another DFS player that maybe has just had a little bit of success with it and can help you out.
Well, I want to pick up on that a little bit because you said something there just kind of about, just being authentic, just kind of being one of the dudes or one of the girls, whatever the case may be. And I want to get into sort of what you've done over the last, I don't know, it's really been like 12 months that you've been on my radar. I think on most people's radar when it comes to, listen, people in the DFS world probably knew you, but like on YouTube and all that stuff, you've been pretty active. And I think it's really important to talk about that because James, I don't know how many of these shows that you watch, but like the whole point of this show isn't just to like interview people. It's to understand what people have done to get to where they wanted to go. And maybe just by having a conversation, whether you're doing it on purpose or not, James, you are maybe imparting some wisdom on other people, not just to like how to quote achieve their goals, but maybe creating some healthy habits, maybe some sort of roadmap stuff for people to maybe hear your story and say, oh, okay, I kind of had a goal that was similar to James's or to Sia's or to Prince Amukamara's, I'm name dropping here, David Meltzer's, Rick Gaiman. We've had so many people on this show that have kind of laid out their roadmap. And I think it's very applicable to really everybody. But before we even get there, one thing about your authenticity that I think is really interesting is that you're not afraid to like potentially piss people off. Like you are like a very edgy personality. Not a lot of people would undertake that for risk of just offending people. And I just wonder, that about yourself. And I just wonder, I know that's not an act. You can tell that's kind of who you are. Is that something now that you've sort of grown a little bit that at any point you were afraid of because you don't want to necessarily piss people off that might otherwise follow you?
Yeah, I mean, like early in my, professional career, I would always worry, especially as you're a teacher, you want everybody to like you, you want to be respected by your peers. Of course, you want your students to like you and their parents to like you, and you want to try to be everything to everybody. But, whenever you're teaching classes, especially, like higher level college classes at a high school level, you got to, and you want to do it successfully. Or if you, even when it comes to making content, when you want to do it successfully, you're just going to have to realize that not everybody's going to like you. Heck, not even 50% of people are going to like you. And so you really just need to focus on the people that are going to like you. And how do you get those people to love you? And I have always found that the best way to get people to love you is be sincere, be direct, and be authentic. And like, that's what I've just always set out to do. The only goal I had 13 months ago when I started my YouTube channel, from the very first show, I said, just be who you are, like you are every single day. Don't change how you talk. Don't change the nicknames you have for people. Don't change your hot takes. Don't change that you'll shit on people that you think are charlatans, and just be sincere, authentic, and real. And people will respond to that. Obviously, there's going to be people that won't like it, but you're never going to make everybody happy. So for me, it was just about really being who I was to connect to the people that will be your long-term fans and ride with you, be your ride or dies for a long time. And those are the people that really make a difference, not the people that are just casually going to watch you occasionally, or the people that don't like your style. So if you can't make everybody happy, just be sincere and get the ones that are going to love you.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. It's like a lot easier said than done. But if everybody else can sort of internalize what he just said, you're not going to make everybody happy. There's going to be just sort of just haters around. I hate to use that word because it's just like such a weird word to use, but there's just going to be guys like even with me, James, like I'm doing this Sia Nejad Sports thing, and people, they know me as a DFS player, DFS analyst, or maybe a host, or whatever the case may be. Certainly, as of the last 18, 24 months, a better where I've just, climbed up the ladder a little bit there. And I break off and I do Sia Nejad Sports because personally, I don't want, for me, I want to kind of diversify my portfolio because I think I have a lot more to offer. But I know, I don't know it for a fact. People aren't like messaging me saying, hey, what are you doing? You're an idiot. This is a stupid project. But I just know how people are. And I just know there's some people that are like, what's this kid doing? Like, why is he even doing this? He's a sports bettor, or he's a DFS player. Like this is like a silly project. And I know that's out there because that's just how people, not 100% of the people, even if you have good intentions, are going to like you. So I like that with you, James, because you're clearly not trying to please everybody on your shows. And frankly, I think that's great. Like, I don't think anybody should really be taking offense to anything that you ever say, but I just think it's funny because, there's probably one or two detractors that actually do. Mm-hmm. And, that shouldn't dissuade you from doing what you're doing. And clearly, like, that's the case for you. So let's back up a little bit. You mentioned the 13-month thing. I want to get into sort of, obviously you were playing DFS prior to that, but I kind of want to get into why you even came up with the idea of like, hey, let me get on YouTube and do this showdown hoedown thing, which of course blossomed into a couple of different things. You're not just doing golf, you're doing football, and we'll get into that later. But what was that idea in terms of like, was it just one night you were just hanging out and you're like, oh man, or did somebody give you that idea? Did you have a conversation with somebody? Like, what was the light bulb moment?
So like it really has a very clear origin. There were two super clear points at which it all started. Back when the first one was in August of 2021. I made the live final for the Fantasy Golf World Championship that DraftKings does. And, you can win those tickets. They're very hard, but then to play through and to actually get to the 40-man live final is a big deal. And they, DraftKings, it's very cool. They fly you out to, that time it was at the Northern Trust at Jersey City. And I got to go out there and I got to meet a lot of the top PGA DFS players in the world, because like those are going to be the kind of guys that have finals tickets, right? I also got to meet some of the big wigs within DraftKings. And I just, for 3 or 4 days, I guess it was only 3 days because the fourth day got hurricaned out. And, it really blew my mind talking to all these top players and these DraftKings people about just how much they did not know about PGA DFS, right? Like I was thinking I was going to go there and have my, be humbled by how much more knowledgeable they were than me about the sport. And it was actually quite the opposite. I couldn't believe how many of these guys that PGA DFS was like their third or fourth sport, right? They didn't even know who, Gooch was at that time, right? Like I was the only one that played him at the live final. So that was my first takeaway. Like, wow, I think I might know this game at a much deeper level than the average person does. But where the ball really started rolling was that actually at that weekend is the first weekend I ever met Andy Lack, who, everybody knows Andy in this industry. He's like the king of agronomy, course architecture. He's the goat at all that stuff, right? And we actually met up there and kind of became buddies and stayed in touch through Twitter. And fast forward about 8 months, he had me on his podcast to just talk about the life of being kind of a high limit DFS player, right? Specifically at PGA, because that's kind of, that's his area. That's my area. And he had a segment on there where he said, all right, so I know you're always trying to sell me on Showdown. Sell me on Showdown. And I went on this whole thing about why there's a bigger edge and there's more fish and the edge is so much bigger there than it is at week long. And, it seemed, he said, those are good points, right? But afterwards we really talked and he's like, you really sold that Showdown thing. I think there's something there. I guess I've just never considered it because there's not any content out there. And it wasn't even 3 weeks later, I was firing up my own show and starting what would be now the Showdown Hoedown, right? Where I just started doing Showdown content. And that is the genesis of the show. I never had any plans of doing a live stream every Wednesday. I never had any plans of covering week-long content or doing NFL or college football or all the things that it's morphed into now, right? I just wanted to do that show. And I got lucky and it caught on.
Really interesting. And yeah, Andy Lack, incredibly smart guy in this space and really outside of this space as well. One thing that really sort of is a theme across most of the shows is that when somebody has a goal, like you had a goal to like, just like basically, and I want to get to the nuts and bolts a little bit of like how you started the YouTube channel. Cause honestly, I think that very thing, like the practicalities of starting a YouTube channel and, getting your equipment and trying to figure out if you need a producer, like that stuff is really intimidating to people, including myself, by the way. So, I mean, I kind of want to just like understand like how you actually matriculated through all of that stuff. But one thing that is such a good theme on this show is that you can have a goal. And it can be a small goal, like, hey, I just want to do this sort of this one show on YouTube, and maybe it's once a week or twice a week. And then like once you actually do it, that splinters off into like several different other goals that like snowball into like a much bigger thing. Because James, I'm curious, like when you started, like when you first were like, all right, I'm going to do this YouTube thing. Did you think in 13 months, maybe you just didn't even think about it, but did you think in 13 months you'd have like 3,300 followers on YouTube? It's hard to get followers on YouTube.
Oh, it's brutal because YouTube ain't gonna share us. So we're like, it's such a niche community, right? And when you try to get into a niche community, and so many people already have their their tribes that they belong to, and they're very loyal to their tribes, and it's hard to gain new subscribers. So I honestly, looking back when I first started, I think part of the reason that I might have been fortunate is I came in with the right expectations. I wasn't trying to blow up or have a successful YouTube channel or any of that. I literally I don't know anybody in my personal life that actually plays PGA DFS. So every time I have a big sweat, I'm always showing my lady or my mom or my one friend that doesn't play PGA DFS, and I'm trying to get them to care. And they're like, oh, cool. They don't care. And it's so much more fun when you have a buddy or something to sweat it with. So I think I literally went into Showdown Hoedown being like, let me build a little nerdy community of sweaty tryhards, and maybe we can just kind of like share our sweats together and enjoy the process and talk about building and run ideas off of each other and strategy. And truly from the beginning, that was my idea, because if you look at PGA DFS on YouTube, outside of like legit two names, like no one really catches great traction at it. So yeah. I never came in with that expectation, because it just wasn't there, and I was so late to the party. I mean, as far as the content game and PGA DFS goes, I have to be 4 to 5 years late to the party.
Oh yeah, at the very least. But that, I mean, all the more impressive that you built as fast as you have, and I'm sure there's like a lot more building to go. By the way, a ton of people in the chat, and obviously James, I credit you with that in large part. But I see Andrew in here, two of the best content creators out there. Thank you very much. Degen Nation, we are here, says Joanne. Degenerate75 Army in the house, says Star-Lord's dad. A lot of really like cool comments in here. Hopefully you all have hit the like button, and I would appreciate it. If you are subscribed to James's channel, do me a favor and just subscribe to mine. Doesn't cost you anything. You know that. You subscribe to James, you can subscribe to mine. It costs you literally $0.00. I would appreciate that, because I'm trying to grow my channel too. It's definitely a different thing. Like for those of you that are brand new or just jumping in the show, Sia Nejad Sports is like kind of a misnomer, because it like there's some sports people that are on this show, but it really has nothing to do with sports itself. It's really about just implementing good habits and motivating and inspiring people, not just to have an idea like James did, but to actually follow through on that idea, which is like the hardest part of anything, is not being sort of feeling let down because you hit a roadblock or you just don't know how to do something. So speaking of not knowing how to do something, James, you started a YouTube channel. I'm curious, did you know anything about YouTube? Was it like, you're a teacher, you're smart, like I know you're a smart guy, not just because you're a teacher, but was it super easy for you to be like, oh, YouTube channel, I'm gonna like set up this little format and this overlay and it's gonna be easy? Or did you have to like go through some motions there?
Literally, I knew nothing. Like I know how to talk PGA DFS. I know how to captivate an audience. That's like my only two skills in life, right? As far as like, I'll never forget the first time I was like, so what do I record this with? And somebody's like, oh, you probably need to use OBS. And I'm like, what did you call me? I had no idea what that was, right? Like I
still don't know
anything.
What that is, for the record.
I think it's recording software. I just hit start recording and it records. He has a team viewer onto my screen and do everything for me. Like I'm an old. I always make fun of olds, but I'm an old. I may be only 39, but in my soul, I'm like 97. And so, this technology stuff, I don't do that. And, so like I knew right from the start that I needed to get somebody that could help me with all the YouTube side of it, right? Even making thumbnails and posting stuff, even on Twitter, I'm like average at best, right? Like I still can't do the hashtags very well and adding people very well. And quote tweeting. Even that I'm like just not good at. So I needed to get somebody. And fortunately I got to meet a bunch of smart kids teaching AP class for the past 7 years, and I still had some good connections. I stay in touch with some of my students, and I have one dude in particular that I remember. He not only took all my AP classes, he also took like AP computer science, so he's a nerd. And I was like, hey, you want to help me out? And he was down to help me out. He's college dude, and he needed the spare time job, and I needed somebody with his skills. And then once I had that, then it literally was just me and him going up to Best Buy, him telling me, get this, and we got it, and we hooked it up, and we just started rolling. And you go back and you watch some of the first ones, they're not as polished as they are now, and I'm sure in another year they'll be even more polished as we just get a little bit better at doing it every time. But the whole intimidation of the technology and everything like that, I just was never going to let be a barrier. I understood my limitations, and I would say one of the best things that a leader can do is understand their weaknesses and find people to fill those weaknesses and delegate those responsibilities to them and trust them. And anybody that's been around my website or my world knows that the editor is who keeps the trains running on time around Degen75.com.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm curious, when it comes to the show, you obviously have you and the editor. And for the record, it was one of your former students, James. But listen, I've impressed this upon people before. You've got social media at your fingertips. If you are intimidated by starting a YouTube channel, which I understand is actually kind of intimidating, or what elements you need, like what mic you need, or whatever the case may be, an overlay for your show, like you can ask people on social media. You don't even have to direct message them. You could literally just like put it out there that, hey, can anybody help me? And if you have a couple followers, there's probably going to be some back and forth there. James, you agree?
I literally am starting a newsletter this week, and I don't know anything about doing a newsletter, right? But I know that a lot of my crowd would benefit from having a weekly newsletter. They would enjoy that. And so I put it out there. Hey, can anybody help me? And I literally found somebody that's 10 times better at doing it than I'll ever be. And she's totally willing to help me. So I got her. I got my guys that are really good at helping me build the tools for my website. I don't know I'm not I know how to do the basics on Excel, but the tool that I put out on my website is called the Rosetta Stone, and it has a million working parts that are far above my pay grade. And I have, a couple really competent dudes that help me with, scraping data and getting all that into a usable form for users, because I don't have those skills. So absolutely finding those people by crowdsourcing has led me to, 3 of the 4 people that basically do stuff for me now, I got through crowdsourcing, and I would be lost without all of them.
So let me ask you this, because by the way, I'm actually pretty psyched because Big Mike's in here and he says, I've been subscribed to Sia already, is what he's trying to say there. And he says, but about to follow James at Degenerate75 now. So this is cool, because I know a lot of your people are in here and are probably subscribing to my stuff, but at least I'm giving back a little bit there, James.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, that's another thing that I've always, I think I've been a little bit different than a lot of people, is I don't view other people in this industry as my competition. It's just such a small niche industry that, like, I think content creators in this industry should band together and should realize that so many people that watch my content are watching your content, or watching the other content creators, and to not be so territorial. And I've just never said no to going on anybody's show. I'm open to having anybody on my show. I just think that that's the way to be, and because we're sharing such a small pool of potential audience, and so that's why I'm glad to hear we're doing that.
Let me ask you about Degen75.com, which is of course your website where you do a lot of stuff. And is it what platform do you use? Is it Discord or Patreon? Like what is that?
Yeah, so it's a standalone website, right? And and then through the website, you can get all the content through the website, which is what the olds like to do. But some of my young whippersnappers like to come over to the Discord, where you can also get the content at the Discord, but you also get the the social aspect of it, right? You want to chat with people, you want to tilt your lineups, you want to say, hey, what do you think about this weather and all that? That's a great place to do it. So trying to get people over to the Discord, but they're olds.
And you mentioned the Rosetta Stone, and I know that's like a key thing with your community. But my question, as it relates to Degen75.com, is okay. So you had your guy that was somebody, a former student or what have you, for the YouTube channel. But as far as the website, you said the term crowdsource, but like, who did you find for that to help you with the actual website?
Fiverr.com, right? That's where you can go find
Okay.
people that are really good at things. Like the people that, the cool showdown, hoedown, people love my little banjo intro. I got my old buddy from high school to make the banjo music, but the cool little symbol that pops up and it explodes into lightning and stuff like that, that we literally pay a guy on Fiverr and he makes those for us, right? And so to get our website done, we literally just went and found somebody who had a good reputation. It's basically like crowdsourcing with credibility, right? And we found somebody with a good score, somebody who knows how to make websites, can do it at a fair price, use them, build the website. The editor knows enough once it's built to keep it running. And that's basically how we did it. Because the website was, that was a big task. That was something that was never on my mind when I started. I never thought that people would want to pay for my content, right? It didn't even cross my mind to try to make money. I've always never put ads on my YouTube videos. That was just never a motivation of mine. But then once I saw that could happen, I realized it needed to happen. And so that's why we created the website.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have a really boring question for you because I do want to get to I do want to talk about some nuts and bolts. So when you say you contacted somebody on Fiverr, was that like in terms of contacting that person and then getting to actually like launch the website? What are we talking like? What's the back and forth like? Was it 2 weeks that had to go by, 2 months? Like what was that sort of like interplay like?
So first of all, we should be asking the editor this. It only took about 2 weeks to get it done. But once again,
Okay.
I'm a big fan of putting, being a general is having very good lieutenants and colonels under you that can go, that you entrust to do the right thing. And that was kind of like what I did with him. I just kind of trusted him to get it done, and they found a really good guy to do it. They got it done efficiently, and we literally haven't had a single problem with it. That's I wouldn't even know where to start when it comes to having those conversations. Whereas the editor knew a little bit about website making, and he knew enough to kind of guide the guy in which direction we wanted to go and give him an outline for everything we wanted. I hate to keep just bailing out on the answers and saying that I delegated to somebody else, but I feel like one of my great strengths in life is knowing my limitations and sticking to what I'm good at.
Okay, so that's like such a good answer though, because I think when people like have a goal and they want to accomplish it, they're like, well, how do I? And they think they have to like undertake everything. So I'm glad we're talking about it again and bold facing it because there are places, whether it's social media or Fiverr or both, there are places where you can get stuff done and like have it. You can have the template in place in a couple weeks. It's pretty amazing. You mentioned problems that you haven't had any problems. Any roadblocks or setbacks at all since again 13 months ago launching? Anything? Was there any moments where you were like, this isn't great, or maybe this isn't working out?
Yeah, I mean, you get in the house when you grow really fast. Those first, I think it was like May, June, July. I got to 1,000 subscribers really quick, which is a big milestone for a YouTube page. Because that's for where a lot of people get monetized, and it's just a good round number that people, it's just a basic goal to strive to reach. And then, when August came around, golf starts to die down. I hadn't started doing any football content, and I was there would be some days I would get no subscribers or even lose a couple subscribers, and it was like a really low month for new subscribers. And I was just like really, when you've just constantly been going up, and then you have your first lull, it really hits you, right? And I had to like really evaluate. I was pretty down about it. Like I was bummed, and I was thinking to myself, this. I thought I was so successful these first 3 months, and what I really the answer I ended up coming up with is that you have to redefine what is success, right? Like success, everybody always views success when they start a YouTube page as simply how many views you're getting, how many likes are you getting, how many subscribers do you have. And it was in August where I really, that first bad month I had where I really started to change how I see things. And I started viewing that maybe success is that I have built a community. Maybe success is that I am making PGA DFS fun for more people. Maybe success is that DraftKings knows who I am and listens to me and lets me influence their contest, right? Maybe that I'm rating the wrong things as success. Maybe I am having success and just not by the metrics that I thought I was. And forget the subscribers, forget the how many people watched my stream this week, and let's look at all the other ways I've been successful, and let's use that to measure my success here in August, and not my typical things that I've been using for these past 3 months.
Yeah, and a lot of those measures of success are kind of impressed upon us. It's not that might not even been your original concept of success. It was just whatever social norm you might have sort of adopted as to whether it be financial or views or otherwise. So I love that sort of allowing, regardless of the goal, allowing yourself to define your own success and not letting somebody else define it for you. Speaking of somebody else, another thing I want to get to is I don't know what your support system is like. I don't know, like if you live near family or a lot of friends, or if you have a wife or a girlfriend or whatever the case may be. And I'm curious, were there people around you that knew what you were doing and were like, this is great, and they were kind of pushing you forward? Or alternatively, was the opposite true, where somebody was like, or people were like kind of discouraging you or belittling you for being like, you want to do what? And you're going to do like DFS on YouTube and website? Like, I'm just curious if anybody was sort of pushing you forward or holding you back in the last 13 months.
So I think you would have to like look at it at two different stages. The first one was because if I never quit teaching, none of this ever comes to fruition. So I guess it's been 5 years ago now that I quit teaching, and I made a conscious effort. I kind of reached the milestone of kind of reached the pinnacle of my career. I was getting the most number of students to pass the AP exams, and I basically was on autopilot. I could do everything on my own, and so and I made a very comfortable living. I know it sounds funny to hear a teacher saying they made a comfortable living, but if the district I was at, we got a bonus for every kid that passed AP exams, and I'm talking like I was making a lot of money, and like $100,000 a year in Oklahoma, you can build a castle with a moat around it. Okay. So like I had quite a few people being like, what are you doing leaving teaching to go play fantasy golf, you donkey? I think, all those people were right. I mean, why are you going to leave this comfortable living to go do something that's so volatile? Right. So I think, in that sense, I did get a little pushback, right? Matter of fact, I would say the only people that were really pushing me to do it were my actual students, right? Of course, it's easy for all the seniors to say, yeah, you should go chase your dreams because, they're not going to have me again next year and they don't care about the kids behind them. But as far as like getting into the YouTube channel, I really just needed it as for mental health. That's the real truth of why I created the page. And it is not healthy to be 37, 38 at the time when I started it, and to not have a job. I just believe that age in your life you should be working hard towards something, right? And I wasn't. I basically was just doing fantasy golf, and I could do that with my eyes closed almost. I've been doing it for so long, and I didn't have structure to my life. And you need that structure to your life. It makes you enjoy your free time. It makes you enjoy your vacation. It makes you enjoy your hobbies. And I didn't have that. So I literally created the YouTube channel as a way to force me to do work. And in that sense, I had a lot of support to do it. Go ahead and do it. I think that would be good. You do need to put your effort into something you enjoy and something new and something to put your, talents towards. And so in that sense, my lady was very supportive. My mom was very supportive. My friends were very supportive. But, at the same time, they also know me. I was going to do whatever I wanted anyways.
Yeah. And so for those of you, and I'm not going to touch on it too much, that don't know my story, I've made a lot of sort of calculated jumps from practicing law as a trial attorney for 13 years to just jumping into pharma sales, and then really to jumping from pharma into this media game. Media game, like I'm some like that's not the phrase to use, but I've jumped around a lot. These are calculated risks that I've taken, but I've just kind of believed in myself and sort of, again, made a calculated risk with safety nets at the bottom of that risk. With the attorney thing, I still have my license to practice in Florida and Virginia. I could always go back to that. With pharma, left it in good stand. I could always go back to that. But the point is, I wanted to do this media stuff, not just from a sports standpoint, but from a Sia Nejad Sports standpoint. And so that's what I've been doing kind of full time for 6 to 8 months now. And I plan on doing it for, the rest of time. So you can all take calculated risks. Let me ask you this. I have an interesting question for you. You have maybe, I don't know this for a fact, but you have maybe changed the showdown game. Because you started this website and because you've got so many followers, and if anybody watches you on YouTube or is a part of Degen75.com, they are very well aware that emblem that's at the bottom of this screen right now it's out there. And I wonder if there's any sort of, for lack of a better term, buyer's remorse, even a small percentage, where it's like, man, my edge is not me, like you, is kind of maybe minimized a little bit. Now, I know what the stock answer is going to be, but I'm just curious, like, how does that question resonate with you?
Yeah, the truth is it has changed. Showdown has gotten smarter. It's not just because of me. I definitely started that movement towards talking a lot of game theory at Showdown, but now there's a lot of people pushing it. And when you have 4 or 5 smart people in the industry pushing it, that means a lot of people are hearing it. And you already start to see, like, it's Saturday and Sunday Showdown. People are starting to, not weigh so much on just playing the leaders and understanding the weather edges. So a lot of the basic edges that are there no longer exist. It is such a sharper game. But as somebody who's been doing this for for a long time, you realize that like the smartest players are always the ones that see 2 steps ahead, right? When everybody starts trending this way, well, then I'm just going to go back this way, right? And if you realize it's a game and it's always a fluid game and you always need to be 1 step ahead, maybe like a great chess player, well, then the edge is still there. Sure, it's not the edge that it was, and it may be smaller, but it is still there. You just got to be sharp enough to find it. So, in theory, I regret doing it because, I don't win as consistently as I used to. It used to just be like every weekend I will get all my money back that I lost at week long, right? Because Showdown is just so easy to beat. And now that's not the case, but there's still an edge out there, and you just have to be willing to play the game. And that's a really hard message to sell to people, but I think it gets through to enough people that it's gonna that I don't regret doing it, and I stand by my decision to give away all the Showdown secrets.
So a little cross marketing here. I did a Fantasy Football Today DFS. I host that show. I'm an analyst as well, with Megan Schaub yesterday, and she was talking the whole subject. Go check it out. By the way, it's a really really good episode. Was about best ball, and she kind of gave like a primer on best ball in terms of like for those that were new to it, and then she talked about her values and teams that she wants to draft or teams she wants to sort of target. But the point is, she was sort of selling best ball to the crowd by saying, "Listen, this thing's only been around for 3 or 4 years. The data that's out there might not be completely the right data. Like we still have an edge here because there's just not enough out there yet." And I think that kind of speaks to what you're saying about Showdown. I mean, listen, the data is out there for Showdown, but the analogy that I made with her was poker back in the day when Chris Moneymaker won. By the way, Sia Nejad Sports, Daniel Negreanu has been one of our guests. If you're new to this show, go back and watch that interview. Me and Pamela Maldonado did it. It was great. Daniel Negreanu just blew me away. He had so much incredible sort of life advice to give. But the analogy I made when we were talking about best ball was, in poker back in 2003, you could slow play somebody or everybody and like win the night. You know what I mean? Like it was like that was the move. And then you start graduating to like, higher levels of poker as the years go by. And all of a sudden, like that like silly edge that you had, that sort of like, primitive edge that you have, it was gone because people were like 3-betting pre-flop and just kind of doing what like just all kinds of stuff you weren't seeing in the early days of poker as sort of a novice player. And so I think when it comes to Showdown, you're right that you got to pivot and then you got to pivot and then you got to pivot. So good answer. I'm actually curious to see like that's why you should be sort of subscribed to your channel and to your site, because you're going to have to be in a mode in 6 months or 8 months to kind of recreate the wheel, if you will, I imagine.
Right. Oh, by the way, I still play that 2003 poker. It does not go well in modern poker. It doesn't.
Yeah, it really does.
I hate how poker's changed. In 2003, I like literally win probably 70% of the times I go to the casino. Now I like don't ever. Now I win so little, I just quit playing. My 2003 poker no longer works.
Yeah, that game is not going to work at the casino. It might work with your friends. It's not going to work at the casino.
Just sit there and wait for donkeys to pay me. Oh, wait, it's 2023, not 2003. That don't work no more.
I actually have a few questions to ask you about, not related to your site or not like just kind of like sort of off the cuff stuff. But I do want to share a story real quick because I played this is like such a humble brag. It's actually just a flat out brag. I played in the 2018 World Series of Poker main event. It was the first time I'd ever played. I haven't played since, actually. I've just kind of been busy. The point is I cashed. I got to day 4. It was excellent. But I got to tell you, day 1, I was that dude that was like the 2003 guy. And I had a bunch of just ballers at my table and they took advantage of me every turn they could. And it just like my stack was dwindling. I went into day 2 with only like 15,000 chips, which is not much. You start the tournament with 50,000 if memory serves. Anyway, long story short, I really battled back. I crushed day 2 and a lot of stories, a lot of crazy hands, bad beats, what have you. But the point is, yeah, that 2003 poker, I had to shift my mindset immediately once day 1 was complete because that stuff wasn't going to work. So let me ask you this. So for those that don't know, you cover golf, obviously, but when we get to football season, is it just college football? You do an NFL? Like what is it? Is it going to be on this website? Is it going to be on YouTube? Like what do we have in store outside of PGA DFS?
Yeah, so definitely doing NFL. I mean, NFL is the cash cow. I've always had, success playing it. It's never been my top sport, as that's always been PGA, but NFL has always been a fairly profitable sport. You can just do some basic things at it to give you an edge. A lot of the rules and the things that I teach at PGA, such as contest selection and correlation and playing the game, those all apply to NFL. So yes, I will be doing NFL content. I'll be doing my own projections and ownership this year, getting real sweaty with it. And of course, college football, which, college football isn't allowed in like DFS. College football DFS isn't allowed in like 20 states. So, that almost kills, 40% of your audience right there. But man, I'm telling you, the college football DFS is the wild, wild west. Like nobody knows what they're doing over there. There's like 10 people that win all the money. And so, I always try to get people into college football DFS, because if you just have a little bit of information and know the basics of building a roster, you can kill it at that sport. I mean, it's on par with how big Showdown Edge used to be at PGA. That's how easy it is.
Yeah, we were talking before we went hot. We were talking about Joel Schreck at Draftmaster Flex and how good he is at Showdown. He does a show for Win Daily Sports. I think it's like every Friday night or Saturday morning for college football, and it feels like he's the only one. I mean, you're doing a show too, but it feels like you two are the only ones that do shows on that. And he's not as successful there, I don't think, as PGA Showdown, because he's really good at PGA Showdown. But the point is, yeah, that's again, now you're bringing in the sort of the 2003 poker angle, right? Because there's just not enough out there there's not enough good information out there. I love that.
And I also love that you brought up best ball. That's the other thing I'm doing. I'm really getting big into best ball. I did PGA best ball, which was so easy. People literally are drafting people that aren't even playing in the majors, because it was only the majors. It wasn't like for the whole season, right? And it did very well at NFL last year too with best ball. It's just it's so new, and so many people. It seems fun, because the best part of fantasy football is drafting your team, right? So everybody does that, but they don't understand what they're doing. They're just taking players, and they're not thinking about the long-term consequences of those choices. So best ball is another one where it's a new frontier, and it seems relatively soft right now. I would bet in 5 years it's going to be as sharp as DFS is, and that edge will almost be gone. But right now, get in there, because that stuff be fun, and there's an edge.
I gotcha. All right. I just got a couple questions before I let you go, James. Non-sports related stuff. I'm just curious, just to find out about you a little bit. Are there any sort of podcasts or activities or whatever hobbies that you've got that you podcasts or TV shows that you listen to, or hobbies that you have that are just not involving sports?
Well, okay. Well, I was going to say Ted Lasso. I'm finishing up season 3 tonight, which I know that's like soccer, but that's that's like saying that, that's like saying Shawshank Redemption's only a prison movie. I think you're missing the point here, right?
Yeah.
I love watching Ted Lasso. As far as podcasts go, I really like the rewatchables. Where it's they just talk about movies, rewatchable movies, and how they've aged over time and all that. It's the best. It's
I love that. I didn't know that was a thing. That sounds like it's right on my alley.
Dude, I'm totally blanking on his name. I keep wanting to say Ryan Russillo, but it's not him. It's the guy that used to be. He was on ESPN forever. Then he was on HBO. People in the chat are just blowing up right now, mad that I cannot say his name. My dude Zach got me hooked on that. Goodness gracious, what's that guy's name? The sports guy. Anyways, he's a sports guy, and he just has him on. He, he does all kinds of favorite movies. He's done Rounders and Good Will Hunting, and so many of my favorite movies, 25th Hour, stuff like that. That's a great one. I mean,
Bill Simmons?
Is it Bill Simmons? Thank you, Bill Simmons.
Thank you, Nick Mars and Joe Neuenfeld. Appreciate that.
I told you they were just sitting there being like, this idiot. That would say that's what I do. But I mean, honestly, who has time in life for something that's not sports? That's kind of how I feel a lot of the time, because I'm constantly consuming content just to stay on it in this industry, so that I can, listening to what other people say a lot of times will help you know which way the wind's blowing, which is my responsibility to share with all my followers, right? So if I don't have a good, good beat on that pulse, then I'm doing them a disservice.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't have a ton of time for stuff like that either, because I've transitioned from just doing it. I was doing PGA and NFL as it was, but now I'm starting to do some other sports related content. So it makes it tough. But I'm going to check out that rewatchables thing. All right,
it's the best.
James, I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover as it relates to your show. But let me ask you this: if there was somebody that was like, hey, James, man, I kind of want to try my own thing. I see what you did. I'm not you, so I'm not trying to be you, but I want to take some steps to accomplish my goal. Is there something where you can sort of dig down deep and impart any sort of wisdom in terms of hey, this is how you have to have your mindset. This is what you, and this is such a tough question, but this is what you got to do to be able to take those steps that you need to take.
I mean, I think as a former history teacher, I think that the biggest answer is just look at like almost every great leader we've ever had, or anybody who's ever accomplished something great. They've all failed, right? And you got to just be willing to go into something just knowing that you're going to fail, and or maybe people are going to laugh at you, and you're going to look like a fool. And this is the hardest thing in the world. And we can all say that we're going to do this, but no one actually can do this. It's just not care when that happens, or not even not care, but be willing to accept it, I think would be the better way to put it. And if you can do that, and once you roll those expectations of failure, or those fears of failure, off of your shoulders, it really frees you up to fly. I guess if you wanted a beautiful analogy. So I would say that get over the fear of failing, and be willing to just go at it, and go 100 miles an hour. Just like I play PGA DFS, I pick my lane and I go 100 miles an hour in it. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes like today at Showdown I lost everything, but you know what, I have my strategy and I went 100 miles an hour at it. And I've done that with things in my life. In this YouTube channel, I picked my lane, I went 100 miles an hour, and so far I haven't gotten a wreck yet, so we're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I think that fear of failure does hold people back, but they just have to understand that that's actually the part of the path to getting to where you want to go. That is like literally one of the steps you need to take, is to fail, maybe several times before you get to where you want to go. Okay, I always close the show, James, with this question: 3 people that James would like to thank right here, right now, that put him in the place where he is today. Not necessarily like, starting a website and having a YouTube channel, but 3 people that just were so fundamental to your growth, that you just want, because this is kind of a gratitude podcast as well. It's a gratitude show as well. 3 people you'd like to thank for just kind of making you who you are.
All right, so I already know I'm going to make my mom bad by not saying her. By the way, she said you were very handsome. I was supposed to tell you that. Anyway.
Did she really say that, or you just...
Oh, yeah, she said that guy you're doing a show with, very handsome. That was her takeaway. She's watching too. I hope I made her blush. All right, so number one, I don't think anybody knows this about me. When I was 9 years old, I fell off my bicycle and fractured my skull to the point that like I should have died. They had to put Humpty Dumpty back together. I have 5 plates and 10 screws in my head to this day. And from the age of 9 to 16, I was not able to play any contact sports. And I'm a big, huge, stout dude, right? And I was meant to play big contact sports, and I couldn't play any until my junior year of high school. A neurosurgeon finally okayed me and said, look, if you're going to hurt yourself playing contact sports, it's not going to be because you cracked your skull 7 years ago. So it wasn't until my junior year of football I started playing. And I went to a very big competitive high school where, like, if you haven't been playing football your whole life, you ain't ever gonna see the field, right? These guys are monsters who've been lifting. I'm showing up my junior year at 250 pounds, and I can't even bench press 115 because I've never done any of this stuff. I'd never have gotten in a 3-point stance at football. I don't know anything. And there was a coach there, Coach Wickert. He was the only one. He was the offensive line, defensive line coach, and he was the only one that gave me any time, that gave me a second of time, that didn't blow me off, that told me, hey, if you work hard at this, let's see what happens. And he just always pushed me. He never felt sorry for me that I was late coming out. He never accepted anything, less than my very best. And he just believed in me. And by my senior year, I ended up becoming a very, very good football player. Like a very high level at my state, and could have played some college football at some smaller schools, right? And it was literally just because I had one guy who believed in me, and I never wanted to let him down. And that's to this day. Whenever I was a teacher, every time I was a teacher, it was just to be like him. You'd be amazed what you can get from people when you believe in them. Like everybody would always ask me, why are you such a good teacher? Why do you get these kids to pass these AP exams? What are you teaching? And like the answer was, it doesn't matter what I'm teaching. Like I'm not even that good of a teacher. It's just when you have somebody who will run through a brick wall for you, you can get them to accomplish almost anything. So that he was a guy that probably instilled in me, just having somebody believe in you and push you is probably the most important thing you can have in life.
I absolutely love that. All right. He's number one.
Number two, I think would be, I don't remember exactly what student it was. When I knew that I wanted to leave teaching, I had this anonymous jar on my desk as a teacher, and I would be like, what should I do when I leave teaching? And you could just leave an anonymous suggestion in there, right? And I would get everything from, right, like go start an animal rescue, to go be a police officer, to just all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And the one that I would get most frequently was definitely become a YouTuber, because in 2018, YouTubing was becoming pretty popular, right? And I would get that one a lot. And I just just blew it off. But one day I got one. I'm pretty sure I know the girl that left it, but I don't know for sure who it was because it was anonymous. But it said, you should become a YouTuber because you could go on there and teach everybody how you teach us, and we know you can do that. And it was just like hearing that and seeing it in a different way, and not just, oh, you're goofy, you make us laugh, be a YouTuber, but you can use the things. We already have proof that you'll succeed as a YouTuber because of the things you do here in this classroom. And that one really, it smacked different, and that was what really planted the seed. She did the inception on me that really planted the idea of this YouTube page One Time Coming. It was 4 years later that it ever came to fruition, but it did. And I would have to say that she inadvertently really kind of changed the trajectory of my life, because I imagine that I'll be doing golf and golf related stuff for, a very long time now.
Did you give out her name? Did you know her name?
I'm not sure which one it was, because it was an anonymous box, so
Gotcha.
I don't know. I have a feeling that I don't want to shout out the
Fair
wrong
enough.
person. Someone else is like, that was me.
Well, that is good enough for me. All right, 2 down, 1 to go.
And this weird one, this third one's gonna be a weird one. This is gonna be a curveball I don't think anybody's gonna see coming. Pat Mayo. It would probably be the third person that's truly changed the trajectory of my life. It was just 8 years ago. 2015. I didn't even know who Jordan Spieth was. The year that he won, I believe he won the Masters and the US Open in 2015. And I'd never even heard the name Jordan Spieth. Right. And now here I am 8 years later, and golf is not just my life. It's like my passion. Like, I love everything about it. And my friend had got me turned on to DraftKings, and he said, hey, check out this fantasy football. Oh, I like fantasy football. I'll do it. Well, I want to hear some content because I want to learn more about this DraftKings and how it's different from year long. Found Pat Mayo's show, started listening to him for football, and he'd always talk about his golf show. And I was bored one summer. It was the British Open. I went and listened to his golf show. I was like, yeah, let's do some fantasy golf. And I was like, wow, this is such a better sweat. This is so much more fun than football, right? This is such a better burn and a better sweat of a DFS sport. And the best thing I can say about Pat is he made it fun. He made DFS fun. He made me excited to play every week. And to this day, every time I do my stream, every time I do my show, my sole goal is to grow PGA DFS, to make it more fun, to reach more people, and to get that guy who doesn't know anything about golf, or maybe likes golf and knows nothing about DraftKings or DFS, and get them to come in and do it and get excited about it every week and bring some happiness to their life like DFS has brought for me. And you do that by making it fun to people. And if Pat didn't ever do that for me, I don't think I could ever do that for the people that I do that for now.
I love that. And I think you sort of emulate Pat in a way, because, the thing about his show, it's, even if you're not even like super excited about like that DFS slate, like maybe you'll play, maybe you won't, but maybe you won't invest too much money. Like, he makes it fun no matter what. Like, he almost makes you want to listen, notwithstanding the DFS stuff or whatever he's talking about, betting or what have you. And honestly, James, I think you're kind of the same way. I can kind of watch your show, and of course I'm interested in the actual content, but I feel like even if I wasn't, and like I was just like flipping channels and you were on TV, for example, like I feel like I would just be like, oh, I'm just going to hang out here for a few minutes and he's going to say something funny or witty or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, I think that's a great third person, because I feel like there's a lot of him in you, frankly.
Yeah, that's the biggest compliment you can give me. I could never be as talented or as good at it as Pat is. The guy is literally, I call him the godfather of the industry. And in a way he is, because like, I guess he would be my dad in this analogy, right? And then all the people that I've spawned and gotten into PGA DFS, because I brought, some guys that found me during NFL now play PGA DFS, and they'd never even knew PGA DFS was a thing. And now they're the third generation, only proving that Pat is the godfather of DFS or PGA DFS content.
That's right. And Pat's going to come onto this show. I've kind of leaked it out there to him. He didn't actually say yes necessarily to this show, but he pretty much did. So Pat's going to be one of our guests. If you're not already subscribed to this show, please do subscribe to Degenerate75. Follow him on Twitter, but follow him Degenerate75 on YouTube. And of course, visit the website, degen75.com. James, it's been a great show. Any parting words? I hate that final question, but I kind of don't want to let you go, but it's been 47 minutes. So I appreciate you coming on the show. Any parting words before we get out of here?
The one thing that didn't get covered is the best fringe benefit of being a content creator is you get to make some real friendships, right? Like I've made some real friendships. I've met up with some of my guys from my website. We went and had a retreat at the Dell Match Play down in Austin, went and played golf, just hung out, had a weekend with the boys. It was fun. Meet some real friends out of this. But it's also been great to meet real friends in the content industry. And that's what I would consider you, Sia. You're a great dude. You do a great job. And I was honored to be on your show.
I appreciate that, man. No, I actually, honestly, the feeling is completely mutual. That is a good thing about content creating is because you really, even though we haven't met, I'm sure we will, but it's just a really nice luxury to be able to have these conversations. And frankly, it should inspire all those in the chat that maybe some of you just don't want to do content creation. I totally get that. But to the extent you do, there's a lot of fringe benefits. You just have to get over those initial hurdles, which was the whole subject matter of this entire show. It's why I asked James, hey, what did you actually do when it came to YouTube? What did you actually do? Who did you contact? What was that like? How many weeks transpired before you got your website up? Those weren't questions that I was just asking because I didn't have anything to ask. They were questions because those are the things that just like the ordinary person who isn't doing what James is doing, they want to know the answer to that. And whether they realize it or not, I just feel like those like kind of boring fundamental questions are really, really important. So for those of you that have a goal, whether it's inside or outside content creation, please watch some of my content. This is probably the 11th or 12th show we've done, James. And I'll tell you, I mentioned Daniel Negreanu has been on this show. Of course, David Meltzer. I'm going to forget people. Rick Gaiman, Greg Ducharme. We've had Pamela Maldonado, who I mentioned, Prince Mukamara, Derek Brown. The list goes on and on. So definitely check out the rest of the shows because I actually think they're going to help. Please subscribe. And for now, that is all here. Thanks to James at Degen75. Check his site out at degen75.com and make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube because you don't want to miss it. My name is Sia Nejad. This has been Sia Nejad Sports, and we'll see you on the next one.